On a Quebec radio show this week, former CSIS director and national security advisor to this Prime Minister, Richard Fadden, questioned the Prime Minister's denial that he was briefed on Chinese government interference in the 2019 election. He said, and I quote, "I would have a hard time believing that no one would not have spoken to the Prime Minister about it." If the former CSIS director and national security advisor doesn't believe the Prime Minister's story, why should Canadians? After all, he's denied things in the past that have been proven to be true. Did the Prime Minister receive any briefings, verbal or written, on foreign election interference? Yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I would remind my colleague and all members in the chamber that the Prime Minister receives briefings all the time with regards to intelligence and any threats to our national security, including potential foreign interference as it relates to our democratic institutions, Mr. Speaker. And that's why independent reviews were launched and confirmed the free and fair status of the elections in 2019 and 2021. And we will continue to ensure that national security apparatuses in this country have all of the tools that they need to protect our democratic institutions. Thank you.
Honourable Member for North Okanagan, Shuswap.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister stated China and other countries are continuing to play aggressive games with our democracies, so we must have been briefed. Later, he said he does not have information on election interference from China. Either he has a selective memory or a very short one. Let's try to refresh it. Has the Prime Minister received any briefings or memos on election interference in Canada?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, my friend across the aisle knows very well that our government took historic steps because we take this issue very seriously to put in place in 2019 the Critical Incident Panel chaired by national security experts and involving the clerk of the Privy Council. This group of independent experts, Mr. Speaker, review during an election period any allegations of this sort, and if it meets the threshold, they report to Canadians that there are significant concerns. That was in place in 2019. That was in place again in 2021, and I'm surprised my colleague isn't reassured by the fact that they didn't report out to Canadians.
As I've said before, I don't mind a little bit of banter back and forth, but when we're just yelling for the sake of yelling, it's not becoming of the chamber.
The Honourable Member for Montmagny, Lillet, Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ever since the media reported that the Chinese Communist regime was trying to influence the outcome of the Canadian election, the Prime Minister has said he didn't know about it and he wasn't informed. But surely he knows something. It's impossible for a Prime Minister to be kept in the dark by his own intelligence services. So the question is, did he or did he not get briefings or memos on Chinese election interference? Yes or no? The Honourable Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs. Mr. Speaker, our government shares the concerns of all Canadians about ensuring that our elections are free, open, and democratic. As my colleague knows full well, in 2019, we did something that the previous Harper government had never done. We set up a panel of experts presided by the head of the Privy Council to ensure that our elections are indeed free and democratic. And as soon as they are aware of a concern, they have to report that to Canadians. They didn't do that in 2019. They didn't do that in 2021, precisely because our elections were free and democratic.